आओ जी मेरे देश मेरे गांव मेरी धूप मेरी छाँव से मिलाओ। आओ जी मेरे देश मेरे गांव मेरी धूप मेरी छाँव से मिलाओ। आओ जी मेरे देश मेरे गांव मेरी धूप मेरी छाँव से मिलाओ। आओ जी मेरे देश मेरे गांव मेरी धूप मेरी छाँव से मिलाओ। भूल जाए जो रास्ता थोड़ा वापस आना।
Very special to be here today. Thank you all for coming to attend the first ever The Right Circle event organized by the Prabha Khaitan Foundation. I'm Isha Datta, Honorary Convener of Northeast Affairs, and I warmly welcome you all to the launch of Prabha Khaitan Foundation in Dimapur. We are happy to launch a new chapter here in the cities of Guwahati, Shillong and Dimapur. We started off with Guwahati 2 days ago and we were in Shillong yesterday, and today we are in Dimapur. Today the foundation, along with hospitality and venue partner Zone Nethu by the Park and the support of Ehsaas Women of Dimapur under the initiative The Right Circle, welcomes our guest author for the evening, Preeti Shenoy. Before we go into the conversation, philanthropist, author, poet, entrepreneur and campaigner for women's causes, educational and cultural institutions, and a promoter of Indian art and heritage. She was the founder of Prabha Khaitan Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to socio-cultural and humanitarian welfare in the late 1980s to work for a better tomorrow.
Pleasure that I extend a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. It is indeed a very special evening as we gather to celebrate the Right Circle by Prabha Khaitan Foundation with a multifaceted Preeti Shenoy. The Right Circle strives to bring together authors and their readers in an informal and engaging setting with a discerning audience like you, with sessions structured around the life and works of the author. Today's event is in association with Zone Nethu and the unwavering support of Ehsaas Women of Dimapur. Our eminent patron Sri Cement Limited supports our events as the CSR initiative. Before we begin the much-awaited conversation for the evening, allow me to introduce Preeti Shenoy. Shenoy is a sought-after motivational speaker at prominent organizations such as KPMG, ISRO, Walmart, Infosys, and Accenture. She enjoys travel, blogging, and avid fitness enthusiast, as well as an artist specializing in portraiture and illustrated journals.
Have you here in Nagaland? You have visited Northeast before, but I believe this is the first time you've come to Nagaland.
Yes.
So before we start asking you about your journey as a writer and about your books, we would, including the audience, would very much like to know what's your experience of the Northeast and especially Nagaland. What do you feel?
So I was really excited. First of all, thank you all for coming here to listen to us. I feel very happy and privileged to see so many excited faces. And the moment I landed, I started shooting videos and sending it to my family. That's how excited I was to be in Dimapur. For you guys, it must be normal, but I was like a total tourist. The moment I got down, I was like, it's so green, it's absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely loved the place, absolutely loved whatever little I saw of it, and loved the wooden carvings. It's such a beautiful, beautiful place. And at the resort, the moment I entered, there were these huge wooden carvings and totally fell in love with beautiful, beautiful Nagaland. And I got to know that Hornbill Festival just finished. And I also got to know that you have to book a year in advance. So the moment I go, I'm booking for next Hornbill Festival. So very delighted to be here. And I think you guys are lucky to be living in this gorgeous place.
Thank you. Atul was going to book a hotel for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Even before the event is over.
Yeah,
so
I'm definitely coming back, for sure.
So, you are one of India's best-selling authors. You
Yes.
have 15 bestsellers.
Yes, 16 if you count
16,
this one.
yeah, okay, 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite a feat.
Yes.
I mean, that's astonishing. You started in 2008.
Yes.
So,
yes.
34
Bubblegums and
candies
candies, yes.
with that, and then your first book in January 2011, right? Life is what you make it.
Yeah, first book was 34 Bubblegums and Candies.
And the second book,
second book was Life is What You Make It.
So, Please take us through the journey of your early days of your writing. How did you decide to get into writing, and what motivated you to become a writer? Have you always wanted to be a writer, or what was your motivation behind, becoming a writer?
So do you all want the long version or the short version? Very long or long? Medium. Okay. So I'll start at the very beginning. I have always written. And can anyone guess at what age I wrote my first book? At maybe 6 or 7. So it was a 6-page book, and 4 pages was a story, and 2 pages were illustrations. And at that time I wondered, how do these authors write so much? Because the maximum I could write was, that's all, maximum I could write was 4 pages. So to fill the rest of it, I drew pictures. I used to always draw. I'm also an artist. So I used to always draw, and I draw live. Whatever I see in front of me, I sketch. So my first book was, that early. And I always had a love for books. My father had a transferable job. So we used to move from place to place. And anywhere we went, our books moved. So for me, the only constant in my life was books. Because my friends would change, my the place I would go to, that would change, the culture was different, language was different, but books were a constant. And then I started, normally like when you start reading, you also start writing. And I'm always like, for me writing is how I make sense of the world around me. So I have written journals, so I used to write journals every single day, even now I continue to write journal. And I won't get sleep until I write in my journal, and that's how I process things. And I won prizes in college and school for anything to do with writing. I used to win prizes. But I never thought that I would take up writing professionally. I never thought that. So I did short story courses. I did creative writing courses. And then what propelled me actually was a very sad incident. By the time I got married, and I used to write, but never for public consumption. I used to just write for myself. And one fine day, I was in Pune at that time. My children were young. My son was 8 and my daughter was 5. And I got a call in the middle of the night saying that my father had passed away. And he was supposed to visit me a week later. Okay, and my father had no age-related ailments. He was just 66. Huge shock. It was a huge shock. I was devastated. I didn't know what had hit me. And that was this turning point in my life, and it made me realize that, see, today we are sitting in front of each other. Tomorrow we don't know how many of us will actually be present. It is such a turning point. Why tomorrow? Even the next 1 hour we may not know. One of us. So that was like, it totally shattered me. So if you had seen me at that time, you wouldn't have recognized me. I hardly smiled, I couldn't speak. But I had to send my children to school. So I would get up, send them to school, and it really felt like someone had slapped me, and all I wanted to do was get back into bed and just sleep. But then I said, this can't go on. I had to go on for my children's sake. So, and at that time I happened to read Economic Times, and I came to know there's something called blogging. I didn't even know what blogging was, and this was back in 2006. So I said, okay, there's something called blogging. So I started a blog, and every single day I would post on that blog. Okay, and the blog I named as a joke. I would do a lot of things, but as a joke I named it Just a Mother of Two. Because I said 2 children, so I name it Just a Mother of Two. And every single day I would write something positive. I said no matter what happens in our life, there will be one positive thing. Like someone has made a cup of tea for me, oh okay, I feel happy about it, I will write. If I've seen a rainbow, I'll say okay, wow, a rainbow is something positive. So I was like a drowning man clutching a straw just to survive. I was writing. But unknown to me, that blog was being read by so many people. Gradually it was growing. And I got readers from Brazil, from Japan, from Portugal. And they all felt very happy about this positive thing, because unknowingly I was spreading positivity. And in January 2007, this was in 2006 when my dad passed away, I started. And in January 2007, one of my blog posts got a Perfect Post award, and that blog post was about my father. So that was like a huge turning point, and I knew that, I knew that there is something in my writing, and then everyone wanted to know who this lady behind Just a Mother of Two is. Okay, so, but I was scared to put my face out there because I don't know, it's the internet. Like, I don't know if I'm putting so much information. So I put a picture of my feet. So I said, I took a photo. I said, okay, they can see who this lady is by my feet. And of course, later I became braver because I knew that internet was not so bad, and I learned how to navigate. And later they knew. Now, of course, everyone knows who I am. And the gradual progression of all this. So all my blog posts, the gradual progression of all this was into a book. So I wrote for a local newspaper. I wrote for Times of India. I wrote for Chicken Soup for the Soul. Some of my poetry got published. And my first book was a collection of true life incidents. It was called 34 Bubblegums and Candies, which Abu Ali said. So I said, anything that happens to us, it's either a bubble gum, because we can keep chewing, get something out of it and spit it out. Okay? Or it can be a candy, something sweet to be cherished. So that was my first book, and that's how my journey began. And this is the medium version, as requested. Yes.
And so it echoes in your stories also, the stories that you've written. There are many universal themes such as pain, grief, loss, relationships, and all that. And one thing that really struck me was about mental issues that you touch upon in many of your books. And in one particular book, Wake Up Like It's Calling, I think, Ankita has bipolar issues.
Yes.
And your readers being young adults, I think they can really fit into one. But we're not really talking about these issues. Even in Nagaland, it's not really open yet. Yes, it's coming up, it's opening up about depression, suicide, and mental issues and all that. And I understand because you also went through a period of that kind of depression. It's portrayed in your characters. So what do you think about our current society's perception of mental issues, and what more should be done, and what would you like to do more in your book? And are these inspirations for you, for your characters, from your life and from your experiences as well?
Yes. So the book which she's talking about is called Life Is What You Make It, and that book was written in, I took about 3 years to write that book. I was living in UK at that time, and I went for an art exhibition, and the images totally blew me away, okay, and all the images were painted by bipolar artists. So I said, my goodness, what kind of a beautiful mind are these which is able to create this amazing images. So I started researching about bipolar, and I traveled to India. And I went to NIMHANS, okay, that's the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, which is based in Bangalore. And they took me around, they took me inside, they showed me everything. And I was like shocked. And I said, okay, I'm going to create a show. But even if we are screaming with pain inside, we won't go to a psychiatrist because people might think, oh, she's mad or there's something wrong with her. So I wanted to create a character which is Ankita, which is Life Is What You Make It. And so I wrote that book, and that book got rejected more than 40 times. Nobody wanted to publish it, not only in India, even in UK. And it was really hard for me to take all those rejections. But by then I had put 2.5 years of my life into that book. So I said, never mind, I will persist. And finally it was published by one publisher. And the book has sold over 1 million copies today. And there was thank you. Thank you. And the book got a sequel also. It's called Wake Up Life Is Calling, which is what Abu Ali is talking about. And I think it's so important to talk about these issues, because that book has, so many people have read that book and said, we didn't know there was something wrong with us. So, and then they sought help. And I feel mental health issue is something, I feel people have become more open. I don't know how it is in Nagaland, but down south and in other cities, I feel people have become more open after COVID. Because after COVID has, I feel, really taught us that what is important in life. You know, we have this short life and we have to focus on what's important. And so in fact this book, which is All the Love You Deserve, this is the latest book. So this starts with one of the characters taking therapy. And that's what this book starts, because I want to normalize taking therapy. So just like we go to the gym for our physical health, why don't we talk to a good therapist for our mental health? Even if there's nothing wrong, it's nice to get a perspective. Because if we talk to our friends and family, they'll always be biased. Okay, they'll always say, oh, don't worry. They're in a hurry to make us feel better. So whatever our pain is, they'll say, don't worry, you know, this is okay. And they'll give you advice. All in good spirit. But that advice is not objective because it's coming from a place of love. But when we talk to a therapist, the therapist is a trained person who asks certain questions, who can answer. You know, so I would like to read out, with your permission.
Sure.
Yeah, so I will just read out the first bit of this book. So we meet the same characters from When Love Came Calling. In that, there's Pooja, there's Arush. Pooja comes from an extremely wealthy background, and her mother is a tiger mom. You know, she pushes Pooja to achieve things, and her mother is a successful surgeon. Her father is a businessman, and her sister has gone into IIM. She's cleared IIM, and she's an investment banker. And Pooja fails all her subjects. Okay, so that's Pooja for you. So you can imagine the pressure that she's under. And then there's Arush. He's born and brought up in UK. The only thing Indian about him is his name. So they both meet. And then there's Sujit, who is a character who is a drug dealer. He's an addict. He's into all kinds of illegal things. So that was that book. But in this book, the characters have come back and they have faced the pandemic, much like all of us. So I decided to give Sujit a voice, and the first one, since we are talking about mental health, I'll just read a small bit of the book which will show you what I view mental health and what I view the role in our lives. Some chapters in your life should stay closed. They are done, over. There's nothing you can do about them because they have already been written. But Dr. Harsh doesn't think so. His deep-set brown eyes are filled with compassion as he looks at me on Skype. The only reason I'm taking these free therapy sessions offered by the Samajam is because Amma insisted. What do you lose by trying therapy? We don't even have to pay for it. Dr. Harsh is one of the best in India, she said. It was only to placate her that I booked online slots with Dr. Harsh. I thought he would be a boring middle-aged man who would give me sermons on facing grief and becoming the man of the family, just like all my relatives did after Acha passed away. But Dr. Harsh turned out to be surprisingly young, sharp and astute. He never tells me what to do, but asks questions that make me think. So I continue with the free therapy, much to Amma's delight. Look Sujit, whatever happened to you in the past, it happened only once. But each time you think about it, the pain comes only because of the story you make up about it. These are stories, not facts, he says. I'm not making up any story. All of it happened exactly like I told you. I'm not for a moment insinuating that you're being untruthful. Let me explain what I mean. Dr. Harsh loves to use long words like insinuating. I make a mental note to look up the meaning of the word later. So that's Dr. Harsh for you. So Sujit is this boy who is taking therapy, and we find a lot of insights which Dr. Harsh gives. And I truly feel mental health is so important. We need to talk more about it. We need to write about it. We need to normalize it and not just say, oh, she's got a problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's still this stigma attached to mental health. Nobody really wants to talk about it. But with authors like you, best-selling authors, we need more voice. And especially with young people reading your work,
Yes.
I think it's important that it's out there. So thank you so much actually for, thank you on behalf of everybody that you're, doing this exceptional job of putting mental health, normalizing mental health. And coming to, talking about research that you have said you went to NIMHANS and all that. So what is your research process? What is your writing process? How do you research your characters, or where do you get your materials from? Please take us through the whole writing process as a writer. What research background? You said you've written that book for over 2 years.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm sure a lot of research has
Yes,
gone
yes.
into it, and collection of materials and all that. So if you could just tell us how you do all that.
Yeah, so firstly I begin with an idea. So it could be anything, something can spark off an idea, and I usually write about issues which deeply move me, but which I can do nothing about. For example, in my book, 100 Little Flames, the protagonist, the hero, is a grumpy old man in his 80s. His name is Gopal Shankar, and very grumpy. He'll get annoyed, he'll get irritated, like many old people. And I felt it was so important. Nobody listens to old people's stories. So I felt it was so important to give Gopal Shankar a voice. And for that book, also I researched. So first I begin with an idea. I came to know that in one place in Kerala, and later I came to know it happens in many states, old people are abandoned. So they're taken to a temple and they're told that just wait here, we'll come back, and the family never comes back for them, you know. And I was shocked when I heard it. But then when I researched and I heard the other side of it, I could understand why the families also did it, because they're so fed up with, they don't have the resources to look after them. Husband and wife are working, and old people get very cranky. You need geriatric care. There were instances where, you know, old people were defecating in the living room and saying, now you clean up. You know, I've looked after you, you clean up. So I could on the face of it, I was shocked and I still felt it was wrong. So I wanted to write a story which captures all this. So then I created Gopal Shankar. Then I created his grandson Ayan. For writing this book, so first I begin with an idea, then I create the characters. And the characters will be like 360 degree. That's why my characters feel real. Like I'll even know what toothpaste that character uses. Is their room, but reader won't come to know. So is their room messy? What do they do in their free time? Where did they grow up? This age to this age, what did they do? What are they afraid of? What is their favorite song? Is their wardrobe messy or clean? Everything I'll know. And about the place, I will research everything. Usually it will be places I've lived in. Like this book, there's Birmingham, and there's Varkala, and there's Kochi. Again, I have lived in UK for some time, and I keep visiting Kerala because my parents are from there. So for me, it's like a 360-degree thing that I do. For Nimhans, I went to the wards, I saw the wards, I read up about bipolar, I made extensive notes about bipolar, spoke to a psychiatric nurse, spoke to parents whose child had bipolar, made notes of all of that, and only then I begin writing.
So these ideas, they just come to you, or is it through experience, or when you meet someone, or certain incidents make you, give you the ideas for the books that you write?
Sometimes it's when I'm traveling, sometimes it's when I meet people. For example, it's all in the planets, like 100 Little Flames, I told you how I got the idea. In It's All in the Planets, I remember I was traveling in Shatabdi, and I was traveling from Delhi to Amritsar. And I happened to read the paper. And I said, there was that, I think I was traveling from Delhi to Chandigarh, I forget from where I was traveling, but it was in Shatabdi. So I happened to read the paper and I saw this horoscope. Okay, Aries, Taurus and all. So I said, is it real, or is someone sitting there and making up this horoscope? How is it real or not? I was intrigued, and everybody is reading. Okay, and I said, is that astrologer really seeing? So I said, okay, fine, what if I write a book and I will start each chapter with a prediction, okay, with an astrological prediction, and end of the chapter you will come to know whether it's come true or not. So I thought that's such an interesting concept, and a nice love story I wrote, a relationship story. So that book was It's All in the Planets.
So talking about ideas, where you get your ideas, I also come across processes in your book where you talk about creative visualization and positive affirmations, and even journaling that you spoke about earlier, that your characters are always either journaling in their diaries or writing letters to each other and all that. So in your everyday practice and everyday routine, what are the things that you do, the ritual of a writer from morning to evening or on a daily basis? Are there some rituals that you follow? That, because obviously you will definitely have some rituals that you do.
Yeah.
And I know there are some authors who want to be secluded, stay somewhere quiet where nobody is there, and then they write and they have their practices. So what are your rituals and practices as a writer?
When I'm writing a book, there's only one rule for writing a book, which is BIC. Okay, and BIC is butt in chair. Put your butt in chair and you have to write.
Make a note of that.
Yeah, BIC. If you want to write a book, BIC. So that's one thing. So when I'm writing a book, generally I'm very disciplined about writing. So usually it will be like whatever else I'm undisciplined about, when it comes to my work, I'm like, it has to be written. So I'll generally aim for 500 words a day or 1000 words a day, and I'll relentlessly be at it till the first draft is completed. Then when the first draft, it might take many months, it might take 5 months, 6 months. Then after the first draft is completed, I will go back, I'll revise it, second draft, then I'll do the third draft. Only then I will send it out. Then there'll be first edits, second edits. So I'm occupied.
So you make a conscious routine for yourself when you're writing?
When I'm writing, I am at it. Sometimes I'm so engrossed in writing, I'll forget to eat. And then my house help will come and tell me, you didn't eat? So I'll say no, I forgot actually, and you can see whether it's a good writing day or bad writing day by the number of coffee cups by my bedside. So I won't clear it, so I'll drink coffee and I'll keep it there. So if there are 5-6 cups, it means good writing day. If there are
So it's amazing that you're a mother and you were raising kids when you wrote all these 14-15 books. How on earth did you do that? I mean, I'm also a mother and it's just impossible to sit for 2-3 hours to even read or write. So it must have taken a lot of effort from your end, a lot of determination as a woman, as a mother.
Yeah.
And please tell us your experience.
Yeah, it was very hard. Now my children are grown
How
up.
did you maneuver all that? I'm just wondering.
Yes, now it's easier because my children are adults now. My son is 26, my daughter is 22, so they're adults. So they are grown up. But when they were small, so when my writing time was their school time. Okay, 7:30, like I'll get up early, 5 o'clock I'll get up. I'll pack all their tiffin and I'll send them off. By 7:30 they were out. And I had set up my home in such a way, I don't have mother-in-law, so it was just me looking after the kids. By 7:30 my kids would go to school, and 7:30 to 3:30 was my writing time. So even my house help, 7:30 the house help had to leave. Whether she finished or didn't finish, she go out. And my husband also left for office around 8. So by 8 my housework will be done. Till 3:30 I will write. It is undisturbed. So, and I'll switch off the bell because people don't understand that someone is writing. Oh, ye madam ghar pe hi hai, like you can come anytime. I will not open the door. So, because that was very sacred to me, that writing time, and I wanted to write at that. People won't understand because I would be in my head, building this plot, and I will be thinking about Pooja, Arush, Birmingham, this, that. Ting tong, the bell will go, and everything will come collapsing down. And people don't understand that, they just think, oh, she's just writing. So it's very hard, but then if you set up, like I feel you have to safeguard that writing time.
Space and time.
Yes. And there was a note on my door which said, do not open, writing a book, do not disturb. And my family followed that.
So you've also, in all this, you've also created very strong women, independent-minded women characters, who goes against the stereotypical image of a woman in India or even in our society. And there are many examples like Diksha in the Secret Wish List.
Yes.
She is, she goes definitely against all the set norms of our society. So how important is it for you to develop this kind of women characters that go against the stereotype, and is it a conscious decision that you want to create women characters like that, or is it through inspiration from women that you know or in your own life? And how have people reacted to some of your strong women characters as well?
Yeah, so I'll tell you the book that she's talking about, Secret Wish List, since you asked me about my idea earlier. So someone I know, a single mom in the US, very close to me. So one evening she was snowed in. She's a single mom with her daughter. She was snowed in. So it was snowing and they couldn't go out. So they just decided to write a wish list. Okay, whatever is in their heart, they just wrote it. 11 wishes they wrote, and then they just left it in the attic. They forgot about it, and by the end of the year, they realized. Okay. Yeah, but imagine my surprise when the book came out, and so many husbands wrote to me saying, "Oh my God, we didn't realize we are like Sandeep." Imagine my utter astonishment, and in that book, Diksha has an extramarital affair. Okay, so it was a little bit, I think, a wake-up call for husbands. Yes, it was. Yeah, because Diksha does what's important that I create women characters who stand up for themselves, because so many women wrote to me saying, how did you crawl into our heads and write our stories? So I was just creating a character based on what I see around me, and that book did remarkably well.
Yes, I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure it's creating a lot of impact, but have you had any experience with any of the readers or anybody coming back and telling you about these women characters and feel like you really changed my life or something like that?
Yeah, all the time, all the time. In fact, for this very book, 84-year-old lady, she came up to me, it was in Chennai, and she said, I love Diksha's character. And she said, it's exactly my story. And then she said, minus the extravagant. And I said, I want a picture with you. And she said, you want a picture with me? I said, absolutely. Because imagine an 84, 200 books on my Instagram in highlights. Off the top of my head, if you want to be a writer, On Writing by Stephen King, I highly recommend it. But just for joy, if you want to read, I would recommend 10 minutes 38 seconds in the Strange World by Elif Shafak. People on Platform 5 by Claire Pooley. Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. It's just for pleasure. Beautiful books, beautifully written books. And so many nice books are there. Like if I start talking, rest of the
We'll read
session
your
will be-
blog and we'll go to your Instagram.
Yeah,
She has over
Instagram.
93,000 followers
on Instagram.
Something that we can share.
For me, it will always be that the letters and messages which people send me are bigger than any award that I can get. I got a message recently from a Kerala cricket player.
That is question number one. The last one is there any possibility of a character probably or a setting from the Northeast or Nagaland in your future books? Do you think there's a possibility?
What's the most difficult part about being a writer? I think it's finding uninterrupted writing time. It's that people keep interrupting. For me, that probably is the most difficult part. I would always joke 10 years back when my kids were smaller that I'll run off to the Himalayas and I'll write. But of course, I can't be without my kids or home. And is there a possibility for a book being set in the Northeast? 100%. Because absolutely fan this book.
Probably when you come to Hornbill.
Probably, because I don't know, these things just come, so if a place has made an impact on me, it will appear. So for sure I feel Nagaland, and I feel Nagaland is not done with me yet. So I hope to visit
Yes.
more, stay
You
here,
have to come back.
and I have to research, I have to stay for 2-3 months to find the culture, the customs, and the
the
understand.
hills and
Yeah,
see the real part of Nagaland.
totally.
Motivational speaker, and you have all this wonderful motivation.
I would just say every day do one thing that gives you joy. Because life is so short, it's so important. We all get caught up in achieving more, doing more. So is there anything that, if there's something that gives you joy, just do that thing. Every single day set aside little time to do something that gives you joy.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Preeti.
Thanks a lot.
Very interesting insights. I used to have writer friends, and I always thought they had a very lonely life. It's a lonely profession, but you made it sound so simple and easy, and I think that's really, really inspiring to many of the aspiring writers here. So I want to take you back to your 6-year-old self when you did your first writing. So I have a friend whose son writes. The father is an Indian diplomat, the mother is an IAS officer, and he writes very fascinating stories. And it's a very strong reflection of their parents' profession, those writings. So I really want to sort of understand, what kind of reflection was it in your writing? Like, what inspired you, transpired you?
Like I mentioned, the old elderly people in our society feeling neglected. In one book, it's about bipolar disorder. In another book, it's about a girl really not having a voice in India. Because in India, we still have female infanticide. And women are still not allowed to do what they want, say what they want. They are mostly conditioned by society. Another book explores that. So each of my different books, I take a different theme and try to explore it. This book explores the minds of young adults. Because young adults, so much pressure. You have to do this, you have to do that. Relationship, family. So each of the book I have explored a different theme. Okay. Yes. I talk
the process.
They usually tell me, and in fact, life is what you make it. I turned down 6 or 7 directors because I felt they were not true to the story. One book, certain books I don't mind, but certain books, it's a serious issue. So I want someone who will handle the subject sensitively and well. And when the time comes, it will happen. But this is a question you have to ask the directors. So you have to hound them. And
Usually when books are like made into movie water or maybe, I don't know, I can't remember, but like even Chetan Bhagut's books, it's so commercialized.
Chetan Bhagut's don't even talk.
Yeah. So it's like
Yeah.
you will be going to you'll be becoming a part of the Bollywood merchandise and your books will lose
No,
its
see, it
name.
depends.
Whenever we want to gift her something, book is the first choice.
How nice.
So we were just traveling 4 5 days back, and I saw this book Ikigai for the teens.
Oh,
But she's just 9.
okay.
But somehow the book appealed to me, and we bought that book for her. And we gave it to her, and she just read it a little.
Yeah.
And she found it interesting. She's like, Papa, can you read it with me? There are certain things that I'm not able to understand. So if you can read it together. So my only thing was like, she's just 9, but it is for the teens.
Yeah.
So should we really make our kids read books or experience things which are ahead of their age, or it's fine? I mean, at times I wonder, will she be? I mean, we somehow, she's my wife. We somehow feel that she's already a little mature for her age.
No, that's
So somehow
that's
feel that
yeah.
she's just 9. She'll turn 9 this
Yeah.
February, and that's for teens. So will it affect her? I mean, thought process, or should we really make the kids read things or experience things ahead of their age?
I think it's fine.
Kindly share some practical tips on how to normalize discussion of mental health issues. I come from a family of having experienced severe trauma with mental health issues, and I take this topic so seriously. And in my little ways, I'm not a mental health professional, but whatever little I know, I try to open the discussion, and I've had to counsel a few people over the years, which has been so surprising to myself. But sometimes it's a very lonely journey because I'm not a professional and I'm a layman. So could you kindly share some practical tips on how to normalize just in our daily life?
My house was filled with books, like I said. So at the age of 9 and 10, I had read books like I'm Okay, You're Okay. Thomas A. Harris. I used to discuss with my father. And we used to have like parent, adult, child conversations. And I feel your daughter, I feel it's a gift if she's ahead of her age. My own daughter got into college at 16. At 16, she left home, she got into college. So I feel it's perfectly okay, nothing will happen. Because what is 8, 9 and all? It's just age which society tells us. You as parents know whether your child is ready or not. So why should your child keep up with someone else? If you guys are guiding her and she's going forward and she's interested, it's a different matter if you're forcing her and she's running away and you're calling her and saying, read Ikigai. But she herself is showing interest. So I feel please encourage her, and wonderful that she has supportive parents.
यादें भूल सकता लेकिन खुशबू भूल न पाएगा घूम घुमा के बन के बादल लौट तू वापस आएगा चैन मिलेगा वही जहां तू रुक थोड़ा सा पाएगा घर आने से डर जाने को बना नहीं था तू आओ जी मेरे देश मेरे गांव मेरी धूप मेरी छाँव से मिलाओ आओ जी मेरे देश मेरे गांव मेरी धूप मेरी छाँव से मिलाओ आओ जी मेरे देश मेरे गांव मेरी धूप मेरी छाँव से मिलाओ आओ जी मेरे देश मेरे गांव